You thought you had moved on, until something small brought it all back. A comment, a memory, a mistake that looks a little too familiar. Suddenly, the past you worked so hard to outgrow is standing right in front of you again, reminding you of who you used to be, what you messed up, what you wish you could erase. And even though your life looks different now, even though you've grown, learned, changed, there's still that quiet thought in the back of your mind. Maybe this is as far as I'm allowed to go. This is how the past really disqualifies people. Not loudly, not publicly, but internally. You hesitate when opportunities show up. You downplay your potential. You convince yourself to stay small because staying small feels safer than hoping again. You call it being realistic. But deep down, it's shame wearing a reasonable voice. It shows up in everyday ways. You don't apply for the job because you remember how you failed last time. You don't fully open up in relationships because you're afraid of repeating old patterns. You don't step into leadership, creativity, or purpose because you keep replaying the version of you who wasn't ready, wasn't wise, wasn't healed yet. You're living today while mentally being sentenced for yesterday. What makes this heavier is that people around you may only see the progress. They don't hear the internal conversations you're having with yourself. They don't know how often you remind yourself of your worst moments just to keep your expectations low. They don't see how hard it is to believe you're allowed to become more than what you once were. But God has never built futures by erasing pasts. He redeems them. If disqualification worked the way shame says it does, some of the most impactful lives in Scripture would have ended early. Moses didn't just make a small mistake. He ran after it. He lived years thinking his story was over before it really started. Peter didn't just doubt quietly. He denied publicly. And yet, when the moment came, Jesus didn't replace him. He restored him, not by ignoring the failure, but by speaking to him after it. That matters, because restoration doesn't happen before the past. It happens through it. You may wish your story were cleaner, less complicated, easier to explain. But God doesn't choose people based on how impressive their history looks. He works with honesty, humility, and willingness. The very things your past forced you to learn. Think about how much self-awareness you have now compared to before. How much more careful you are with people's hearts. How much more grounded your choices have become. Those things didn't appear out of nowhere. They were shaped in seasons you'd rather forget. And while you may regret the pain, the wisdom stayed. The danger is not that your past exists. The danger is letting it have the loudest voice. Shame wants to keep reminding you of who you were at your lowest point and pretend that's the full picture. God sees the whole story. He sees who you were, who you became, and who you're still becoming. He doesn't rush the process, and he doesn't discard people mid-journey. You're not behind because of your past. You're informed. You're not weak because of your failures. You're aware, and awareness is something you can build on. Sometimes you think you need to wait until you feel completely forgiven, completely healed, completely confident before you move forward. But confidence often comes after obedience, not before it. God doesn't ask you to feel qualified. He asks you to trust that he can work with where you are now. Look at how often you've already done things you once thought were impossible. You survived seasons that almost broke you. You made it through moments you didn't think you'd recover from emotionally. And even if you're not where you want to be yet, you're not who you used to be. That counts for more than you give it credit for. Your past may explain why certain things are hard for you. It does not get to decide what you're allowed to pursue. It may remind you to be cautious, but it doesn't get to keep you trapped. Growth doesn't mean the memories disappear. It means they no longer control the direction of your life. God is not looking at your life and thinking, if only they hadn't done that. He's looking at your life and saying, look how far they've come. You don't honor growth by staying stuck in regret. And you don't honor God by disqualifying yourself when He hasn't. The future isn't reserved for people with perfect pasts. It's built by people who learned, repented, adjusted, and kept going. So when that old voice shows up again, reminding you of who you used to be, don't argue with it. Just don't obey it. You're not that person anymore. And even if you still carry pieces of the past, they don't cancel what's ahead. Your past is part of your story. It is not the ending. And it has no authority to disqualify what God is still unfolding in your life.